Hey everyone, it's Sussi from Ocean New 101. I'm here with Goose Sussi. He's a multi-millionaire and he owns several businesses and an author of a book called God Money. How are you doing today?
Doing really good, thank you.
Yes, of course. So my first question would be, people make money in lots of different ways. Can you explain to everyone how it is you made your profits?
So I am like those people that make it a lot of different ways, and there's so many different ways to do it, but our main focus is real estate and businesses. So whenever I have extra profits in anything that I make or sell or anything, I move it into either a business or into real estate.
Yeah, that's really smart. And when you made your first million, did you have anything in mind that you wanted to buy special, or was it just I don't know, did you have anything oh gosh, I'm going to buy this first, or?
Yeah, so I love that question because yes, I had so many things I was going to buy, but then I realized $1 million is not as much as I thought it was. And so quick little story, we were sitting in my CPA's office, and my wife and I, we didn't know that we were quote unquote millionaires on paper. And he looks over and says, Mr. and Mrs. Sussi, congratulations, you're millionaires. And I'm like, we are? There's no Lamborghini in the garage. There's no jet. There's no, I thought there's going to be all these things, right? But $1 million isn't as much as it used to be. And so that's why in my book, God Money, I'm just trying to give people the permission to go after a lot more than just $1 million, because it honestly takes, think about all the good you want to do in the world, right? $1 million gets eaten up so quick. And so if you want to fund certain charities, or if you want to actually make change, the bigger your pockets are, the more change you really can make. And so yes, I still haven't bought the things that I really, really want, but we have nice things. I mean, we've gotten new cars and build multiple homes and stuff, and new homes and stuff like that. So I have a nice watch. I did buy that. So
Speaking of your book, can you just tell us a little bit about it? What's it about, and how do you think it can help others?
Yeah, so great question. The book is it's very practical, right? So it took about a decade to write. Oh, wow. I really took 1 year to actually write it when I started to actually write, but I was developing in my mind for about a decade. And I was talking to your dad, and it was very similar to, I was looking for somebody to show me a way to get rich without losing my soul or my mind, right? I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, and I believe that God wants us to be more than just happy. We live on a financial planet, right? And so money is a part of that. Money is a part of our everyday life. There's a reason we didn't fly down to Fiji today to go do this, right? Time and the money, right? So the book is really about just what I wish I knew when I was 18 years old. Okay. And it was all the things that I knew there was a system, I knew there was a formula, I just didn't know what it was to create wealth. And throughout the years, a decade really, after I gave myself, dedicated myself to God and truly started living for Him and not for me anymore, it's when He started to truly peel back the layers of the plan, the process on how to become wealthy. And tithing was a big part of that.
Okay. And speaking of just money in general, how did money management come into place? Because you have a lot of money, but you can't just spend it all on just so many things. So how do you say that came into your life?
Yeah, so I used to, like most Americans, you get money, you spend money, right? And money does have a flow. It absolutely does. But you have to know what to do with the flow. So you can go broke. There's people that make $500,000 a year that are broke. They live paycheck to paycheck because they spend every single thing they make. And there's people that make 50 grand and still have savings at the end of the day, right? So it comes down to your systems and processes. And that's what I do in the book, is just outline very specifically systems and processes that work so you never are broke. And I'll share real quick, one of the formulas I have is a 10-20-70. So this is going to help you today, right now, if you just implement this in your finances today. You take 10% and you tithe. I believe tithing is 10%. I don't believe tithing is just giving. Tithing is 10% of your earned income. 20% of your income you're going to put into a save to invest account. And then you're going to live off 70%. If you cannot live within 70%, you're not balling on a budget right now. You need to cut back. Okay. So.
Wow, that's a great advice. And I mean, you kind of already touched the basis of tithing, but as like a Christian, which I am too, how does just tithing play an important part? Because you give 10%. What other information would you say?
Yeah, tithing is a spicy topic for sure, especially depending on, there's some people who just say, oh, it's Old Testament or whatever. But you got to take that up with God. Like when I read the Bible, I truly believe that like tithing is 10%. Tithe means a tenth in Hebrew. So, so it literally is in the name, right? So tithing really did change my life though. And it was because I wanted money so bad. I grew up very, very broke. In a loving household. They loved me so much. They were super encouraging, but we had no money. And in life, we need money. Yeah. And so I had a very unhealthy relationship with money. I just saw what I saw in Hollywood and in culture, right? And I feel like Christians, we mess money up the worst just because we now are trying to figure out, well, can we still serve God and still try to become a millionaire? Absolutely. You just have to do it with your heart position, right? Your heart position is the most important thing. God doesn't care if you have stuff. He doesn't care if you have a lot of money. He just doesn't want those things to have you. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't matter what you drive, what you have. Yeah. This is another amazing thing too. Throughout the Bible, God is looking at money in percentages and not amounts. Wow. And so if we can do the same thing, right? And it's like, I've heard pastors tell me, well, it's easier for a millionaire to give than someone who's not a millionaire. I was like, well, no, it's not. It's the same thing. It's 10%, right? So 10% is 10%. Doesn't matter if you make $4 a day or if you make $400,000 a day. 10% is 10%. The amounts don't matter. It's the percentages that count.
That makes a lot of sense. And my last question would be, if you had to give advice to someone who's just 23 years old, what advice would you give to help them in their future?
So I'm thinking when I was 23, I was broke. I was a knucklehead. And I wish I would have just relied on God sooner instead of trying to think that I could figure it out. And like 23 is like, I'm 35 and I feel like I'm a baby. Like I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Like I just want to keep growing and learning, right? But I think just understanding that God has you right where you need to be, but you need to take the next step. You need to figure out what is your actual purpose and lean into that. Money comes. Like you can get paid for your purpose. You really can. And it's so crazy. Like people forget that even Jesus had a job. He was a carpenter. Yeah. His purpose wasn't to be a carpenter. His purpose was be the redeemer of the world, right? He was Jesus. But we kind of forget that like we automatically feel like, well, if I'm not living my purpose right now, then I'm not doing God's work or God's will. It's like, well, it's part of the process. You just got to give yourself a little bit of grace and understand that being patient is important right now. And God knows the timing. You don't. So just rely on him and just understand that he has the best for you. Not the world's good, but he has his best for you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your advice and for your time. Don't forget to learn, apply, and succeed. And thank you guys for watching. Bye.